Welcome to Pinball Mayhem. Today I'm going to show you how to free play the credit unit in this AMI F80 jukebox, as well as how it works. But first, don't forget to subscribe and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. This is a F80 jukebox, and it is the same credit unit that you would, or a very similar credit unit that you would find in the D jukeboxes, AMI D jukeboxes, all the way up to the G120. Now the G200 introduced a new mechanism, and in that mechanism it has a slightly different credit unit, a system that allows multiple pricing. That system is gone all the way up to the Continental 2 in 1962, and we'll be doing a video on that later if you like, so please make sure to comment below and let us know that, hey, we want to see more about the credit units, and we'll show you what we can. This jukebox is a F80, as I said. That means it has 40 records in the basket, and it will play both sides, giving you 80 selections. So first off, we're going to remove the puppy and remove the credit unit. I'll open this up. Now this still is needing to be assembled and stuff. It's going to eventually be for sale. Inside we have our credit unit right down here. It's pretty easy to remove. There is a plug on the right. This goes to the switches. I plug these in. You don't need these once you free play them. These are the coin switches that the coins will hit when they go through the credit unit, which is missing. Very often to be missing in this jukebox, especially when you find a second-hand market. Some people do certain things I'll talk about on the credit unit to make it work. This does not need to be here. This plug does not need to be plugged in. So that will go back in the parts bag. So we got a plug on the left. And sometimes these are going to have a cover on them. Mine does not in this box. I have one on order. There's a little lever here where my index finger is. Pull it towards me, and this just slides forward. So it sits like that with the two plugs forward, and this is what the back side looks like. Let's go to the bench and talk a little bit more about it. Thank you. Okay, first thing, the meat and potatoes. What you came here to see is how to free play the credit unit. Now this is how it sits in the box. If I turn it over, we're going to see we have a few switches here. When these switches are connected, the center contact is the same. It will light the light, and it will also allow credits to be made. Now you do need this unit in there in order to make a selection. One way people do it is they jam the cancel relay, or they'll bend these switches so they're always connected. I don't like depending on these contacts, because they're old contacts. If we don't need them, we're just going to wire them together. We don't need them to make or break. Might as well solder them together. So I did is I just solder a wire across the back. And the easy way to do that, take a piece of wire that's way too long. This is solid wire, like a 22 gauge. I like to strip it just so it's easier to work with. What I'll do, it doesn't have to be the perfect solder job, but I will then solder to the outside, allowing the plastic for me to hold on to it. Then I can bend it tight around and then clip it off when I'm done. Leave everything else intact. So it's that easy to free play one of these jukeboxes. That's the best way for me, and I've seen it on, I don't even need a video for this really. Some people say, hey, just solder the switches together, but which ones? Now, as mentioned, the D jukeboxes do not have a credit light on them, and if you had one of these from a D and you tried to put in a G or F, it should still work, but your credit light might not work, and that's where you probably take the manual out, see which one of these contacts in this plug go to the credit light, and then solder the wire in that's missing. So wouldn't be too hard. Otherwise, if you don't need the credit light, don't worry about it. You don't need it. So how does this work? So at this point, when you're done, put it back in the jukebox, you're good to go, golden. How does this work? That's the big question. What are the adjustments on it? It kind of looks complicated. It's not really. It's hard to see in there. So I'm going to point out a few things. Right here, we can see there's a big sprocket on the back, and this is our cancel. So every time a credit is used, it will pulse this relay, and it's going to actually cancel that wheel. So if I have credits on here, let me put some on. You can see now, every time this gets pulses, it goes back one tooth. Now that's an adjustable throw, and that's important because when I got this, it was all wacky. So on the back side, there's a plate this is the pivot for that guy, and the screw. So you loosen the screw, you move it just a little bit, and so that it makes one tooth. It doesn't skip, or it doesn't not make a tooth. That's another way you could do it to free play it, but that's still relying on these connections. So that's how credits are removed. Credits are put on by turning this wheel, sprocket. Now over here, you can see there's two solenoids, and there's a third solenoid down there. It's going to be very hard to show you. Essentially, this lever will be pulled up and will ratchet the gear. But how far it pulls up is based on these two solenoids. How does that work? So there is the ratchet gear, which has the teeth on it. And you have a ratchet that's attached to it that is going to ratchet on the teeth. It's going to allow this gear to move this way. That's going to move up. It's going to allow this to wind up, but not wind back. So it's going to be a one-way ratchet. Now, you got a solenoid underneath that sprocket here that has a plunger that's going to fire, and that plunger is going to move this up and down. So every time you put a coin in, this plunger fires, this ratchets up and drops down. Big problem is how do you define? You got three coins that can go in: a nickel, a dime, and a quarter, and the coin mech will pick which coin goes in. So it needs a way to control that. So you actually have a horizontal solenoid here and here with a plunger in them. And what happens is when you put in a different currency, that plunger will fire, or this one, and it will limit the throw of the ratchet. And that's how it ratchets up. Now, in other mechanisms, you can kind of see there's the two coils. You can see they're spring loaded. And this is the ratchet arm, which I badly drew. And when you have yours apart, you can look a little closer. But that's ratcheting up. And there is limiting screws that can be put in there. There's certain adjustments that can be done on these. There's even more adjustments on one model newer, which is why they modify it. So now we're all done. It's time to put this back in the jukebox. What I'm just going to do, put it back in, lock it, plug it in. See you in a sec. Thank you for watching. Now that we have the credit unit modified, I have a light bulb where the credit light window would be in the surround. I'm going to turn it on, and we'll be able to make selections. So see that light bulb lights up, and now it's ready to rock and roll. Thank you for watching, and please make sure to subscribe and check out our other videos.